a hurry here because we only have 15 minutes. So this is going to be a very fast run through some of the things that is happening in the world around us. From a HuffPost perspective, that's what we're going to use as the case study today. We're supposed to talk about content, and we'll talk about content, but I want to talk about it in the content of data and technology, because over the last 10, 15 years, we haven't really seen a lot of improvement in the content we see out there. We've seen a lot more content, but really what we need today is finding ways of discovering that content and amplifying that content. So that's really what this story is going to be about today. I'm going to talk about some of the shifts that we've seen, how you have to lean into those, what some of the solutions are, and also what's coming as we're standing here in 15. There's basically 4 types of shift. There's source of consumption shift. So obviously in the 90s, everyone came directly to your website. Then there's the search shift. Then there's the social media shift. So that's all happening from a source perspective. Then you have the device shift from desktop to mobile. You have format shift from text to video. And last but not least, you have the platform consumption shift that's happening right now. Those are basically the 4 things that I'm going to talk about today. As I said, we're in a hurry. I only have 15 minutes, so I'm going to be very fast. Over the last 10 years, this is basically the business that we've been in. The only reason why HuffPost has been able to win in this game and have been able to grow their user base from 0 to 200 million users is because we've understood these trends. Without this, we wouldn't have the business we have today. So let me quickly dive into some of these. There's this company called Google. 15 years ago, it wasn't here. Today, I'm pretty sure you all know about it. Not only are they a very valuable business today, they also changed the way people discover content. And if you don't understand what that means, if you don't understand what PageRank mean or universal search or real-time search, if you don't understand what it means when they change their algorithm, which they do occasionally, then you're going to have a problem, because right now, around half of your traffic still is probably going to come from organic search. So understanding this, playing into this, understanding what it means from a content perspective will matter hugely for your ability to be successful. There's this other thing that wasn't around 10 years ago called Facebook. They also changed the way we as publishers, we as content creators had to think about content. Again, because they now control such a big part of the ecosystem. And Facebook was just the first frontier. If you look at the players that are right now in the space and have, on the right-hand side, you actually have the players, the social media platforms that have more than 50 million users. You have everyone from Snapchat, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. These guys, again, are changing the way people are sharing and discovering content. And again, right now, as of 15, Facebook changed their algorithm, so they are now favoring things that have posts that has video in them. So if you haven't discovered that and are not thinking about that, then it doesn't really matter you have the best piece of text content, because it's not going to be ranked the way it used to be. So again, understanding Facebook and what that does to your content, how things are discovered and shared, obviously will matter, not only to people that view it, but also how it's shared across to more people. Again, what is it that I'm preaching here? I'm basically preaching that you need to understand the underlying dynamics that's driving content, because if you're not understanding the underlying dynamics, you're not going to have your content to get out there. And I'm going to illustrate it with an example. At HuffPost, we spend a lot of time getting really good data and understanding the data, creating dashboards so everyone was empowered to make informed decisions. This is an example of us 5 p.m. in the afternoon, posting a story. What we normally do, at this occasion they didn't do it, but what we normally do is we test 4 or 5 headlines. The headlines will matter. And when you have a big audience like HuffPost, you can actually test them to a big audience and see which one that will stand out. And for an article that has been created that a journalist has spent 3-4 hours on, changing a headline is a small thing. But changing a headline, they didn't do their job here. We realized they hadn't done that job. 9 a.m. in the morning, the editor comes in and sees this piece of content is not performing. It has a flat curve. We know that the content is not performing if it has a flat curve. By looking at different types of headlines and changing the headline, you go from having 100,000 people reading this post, this article, to 2.6 million reading the same piece of content. And from my perspective, that is hugely valuable. And that's also why, if you've if you have read, if not, you should read it. The New York Times Digital Innovation Report, when they came on, they said, HuffPost actually work in a whole new way. Their work really begins when you hit the enter button. And that's really my point here. You still need to create amazing content. That never stops. You need to be a good storyteller. You need to understand the narrative. But if you don't understand the things around the story, you're going to have very few people reading it. And that's kind of understanding data and the technology. There is the source of consumption. Sorry, I'm going very fast, but as I said, we don't have a lot of time. I'm now going to the device shift. The device shift, again, is also hugely important to understand, because if you don't understand what it means when things are shifting from devices, then you might be all out of business. That's what a lot of the traditional publishers are facing today. They didn't take it serious when the shift happened from print to desktop. When the shift happened from print to desktop, they thought they could take the same newspaper article and put it on the desktop and it would work. And obviously it didn't work, because if it had worked, we wouldn't be here. HuffPost would not have 200 million users. It didn't work because it's a new way of reading content. So if you're writing to a desktop, you're writing to a desktop. You're not writing to a print paper. And the reason why I'm saying this is because the same shift is happening right now. For a long time, we've talked about desktop being the first screen. Desktop is no longer the first screen. Mobile is the first screen. And this is data from last year, so it's already outdated. The number now is 65%, and this is on average across the biggest properties in the US. For HuffPost, it's actually also higher than this. For us, it's around 60%. So if we don't understand what it means that, when you suddenly you have 60% of your traffic on mobile devices, if you don't understand that that is a fundamentally different way of serving up content, then you're going to screw it up. And what I mean with that, I'll show you here in a second. First, I'm just going to illustrate how fast this change happened. Again, these changes are coming very fast. So if you're not looking at data, if you're not looking at mega trends, and if you're not adapting, you're going to be in trouble. What it means from our perspective when it shifts from desktop to mobile is that suddenly, time shifts. It basically means that people are consuming content at different times a day. Some of them are using only one device, some of them are using both devices. So basically what you're seeing here, on the left-hand side, you have how people are consuming our content. So there's a little consumption in the morning, but the majority of the consumption is actually in the evening on the mobile. And it probably makes sense. A lot of people are sitting in front of the television and still consuming content, so they're multitasking. So that's where we have a lot of consumption. The thing that's important here is that if we don't have fresh content, if the same story that we put up at 9 a.m. is still sitting there at 9 p.m., then we have a problem, because people like fresh stories. So this basically changed the way you need to program. If you don't have fresh stories at 9 p.m., where you have the most screen here, then you have a problem. And of course, the same thing happens for desktop. What I'm preaching here is not that a story that works on desktop cannot work on mobile. I'm just saying you have to time shift. You have to think about what that story is, how it relates to the different audiences, and how you serve it up. And sometimes, even though it's the same core story, you need to serve it up in a different way to your mobile audience. The thing that's happening, as I said, we're becoming mobile first. For the millennial audience, the people that are right now driving the things on the right-hand side here, Snapchat right now is 100% mobile. And I'm sure you've heard about Snapchat Discover. So if you want to talk to a millennial audience and you're on Snapchat Discover, if you don't understand mobile, you obviously have a problem, because then you're not talking to them. This basically means that you need to think about this device in a whole new way. And since we don't have a lot of time, I'm just quickly going to say that you need to really, think how you design things, and you need to think how technology can enhance those things. We work with something that we call passive personalization, which basically over time will learn and adapt to how the users are using our content and make better experiences. That's just one of the things that's happening. You also need to think about how you make it easier to share things that are on the mobile. You need to think about how video fits into the mobile. There's the device shift. Then we go into the format shift, the shift from text to video. And I'm sure you're all aware, but there's a lot of people out there consuming a lot of video these days. Over the last 4 years, it's grown 40% year over year. And not only are they viewing and looking at a lot of content, they're also creating a lot of content, right? Around 80% of all content out there right now is user-generated video content, 80%. And every hour, there's 300 hours of content uploaded to YouTube. That's a shitload of content, and it basically means that your content is going to disappear if you don't understand the things that I talked about a second ago. If you don't understand how search works, if you don't understand how social works, then your content is going to disappear amongst all these cat videos or whatever they're putting out there. Another thing that's happening on the video side is in the US, obviously, we've seen a huge shift in the way people are consuming media. Cable TV has run into some serious problems. Comcast, Time Warner used to be the biggest cable operators in the US. Right now, they're the gray box here. Combined, they're smaller than Netflix right now. Netflix is overtaking them. 10 years ago, Netflix had a failing business model. They were basically, an online video shop that didn't work. Now they've changed their business. They pivoted. They understood how these trends were working and have taken over some of the most valuable cable companies in the world in terms of size. From a HuffPost perspective, it basically means that we need a lot of more video content. We can't create all that content ourselves. We basically just did a deal with NBCU where we get access to some of their content. Because I have an audience that has arrives on HuffPost. They want us to video content. We are right now under indexing. We don't have enough video content for them, and we can't create it fast enough. We've also created, of course, video experiences on our platform. We created HuffPost Live, which is 8 hours of live news coverage every day. So we'll do much more of that, but it will take us time to just saturate the hunger that our audience has for video. We've also done, actually you saw Shahzad from Broadband TV, we've just done a deal with them on creating the biggest outreach citizen journalist platform on YouTube. So that way we are tapping into the quality journalism that's actually happening outside of our platforms on YouTube and the things that we should leverage across. So this is the way that we're going to try to kind of fast move into that space. Unfortunately, I don't have time to show you this video, so I'm going to click fast through because we're running out of time. I also don't have time for this. We will click through that because I want to talk about this, and I only have 1 minute and 30 seconds left because this is the next thing, distributed media. For a long time, people came to our platforms, to our owned and operated platform to consume the content we created. Right now, that is shifting. I'm sure you've seen, I already mentioned Snapchat Discover. You've seen Facebook Instant Articles. You're seeing Apple News. They're changing the way they want content served. Basically, what it means is that suddenly it means that you're the content creator, you're the publisher, but they want you to basically publish everything on their platform, not on your platform. Basically means that they're going to take over the power. The power is going to move in this direction if you go into this game. And for the millennial audience, that's where they're consuming their content, right? They're no longer coming to our platform. So if we're not finding a way of getting out into those platforms, we're suffering. So basically what I've been talking about today is these three things, and the fourth being the whole triangle, the whole thing here. So number one is mobile. The shift to mobile has huge implications, and if you don't understand kind of what it means from a social and search perspective, you're in trouble. You also need to understand, content from a video perspective. If you're not kind of understanding how to take your tech stuff and put it into a video content right now, then already now you're under indexing on the bigger platforms because they're changing the algorithms so video is being favored. The same thing, if you're not on those platforms, you're actually not going to have the social sharing, so you're not going to have the amplification of your content, and you want the amplification on the content, but you can't buy your way to the audience. So this basically becomes a vicious cycle if it doesn't work. And then the last one is, of course, as I talked about, the distributed content is totally changing the way media and content is being served up today, and it's just started. So again, we already talked about this. We talked about this. So the last slide I want to leave you with is, from my perspective, to win in this game, the reason why HuffPost has won, prioritize technology in order to monitor and improve performance in real time. That's important when the source of consumption shifts. Device shift is really about product innovation, right? Adapt to fundamental changes in audience behavior. If you didn't understand that when the shift happened from print to desktop or from desktop to mobile, you're in trouble. You need to really think carefully about what it means from a consumption perspective. Also, when the formats shift, organizational innovation, right? When we have 1,000 people at HuffPost, when suddenly, and the majority of those are doing text-based content, when suddenly this shift happens to video, obviously we need to change the organization to kind of be able to capture that. And the last thing, I think, if you want to play in that game, of course, you need to do some good partnerships with these new platforms that wants all your content. Because if you don't get access to data, data is key in this new world. And right now, the way these deals are struck, you don't have access to data. So you need to do some great partnerships. That's it for me. I'm out of time. Sorry. I hope you enjoyed it.